Hello YouTube, epic funk montage style. Yes, I know a lot of you guys detest funk because you think it's a brain dead style of music, and I actually agree with you. It's why I love listening to it when I train, because that way I can just go monkey ape mode and just think about tearing through the fucking weights. Welcome to this Hypertrophy Log number 8. At the end of this video, I will have a big announcement for the channel, but right now we're going to focus on my training for bodybuilding, hypertrophy, and mass. And we're going to start with the decline push-up using Olympic rings, a movement that I personally favor for calisthenics because I find that it allows you to really hit the entirety of the chest, especially the upper chest, that you feel a ton of that movement. You get more range of motion. As you can see, I stop literally when the rings get lodged into my armpit, so the stretch on the pectoral is immense. The triceps get pretty worked as well, and the shoulders, especially the front delt, also receive stimulus. This is something that I do naturally with a backpack to increase the resistance and difficulty, and in the backpack right now there is 70 pounds. If you have a good backpack like I have here, where you can really get it tight around the shoulders, it should not move around, it should not be unstable, and it should be perfectly safe. This backpack has a capacity of 200 pounds, so I have plenty of room for progressive overload. I don't recommend you do this with a flimsy backpack because it could be dangerous. The rep range is relatively low because still I think that on movements like this you get to be very intense because they are very safe, you can bail out at any time. And I superset this movement with what I call personally the ring rollout. So it's the exact same movement you would do with an ab whirl, but using rings. So you're going to push your arms in front of you like Superman, and you're going to allow the entirety of the core to stretch. Then you're going to contract it by bringing your core into your pelvis, and that way you get the best of the stretch, which is the most important for hypertrophy, but also the good feeling of the contraction. I find if there is any real utility of the contraction is that it allows the stretch to feel even more efficient afterwards because you can feel the muscles you are trying to work. Caution, of course, this can be extremely demanding on shoulder mobility, so I would recommend to try and start by limiting the range of motion. Don't push your arms all the way in front of you, and slowly build up the resilience of the shoulders and of your core. I always preach to guys train abs, and this is exactly the reason why. I'm sitting at 220 pounds at very high body fat, as you can see, and yet I have a full six-pack. This is not genetics, this is not the luck of the draw, it's strictly because I train my abs. If you want abs, you have to train them. There is no mystery. And doing 2 to 3 exercises a week is plenty. You don't have to kill yourself with ab routines. I do 3 sets of abs and that's it. I'm out the door. Then after this, I'm going to do a movement that I have also been speaking about very highly on the channel, and that is pullovers. I still to this day will tell you that pullovers will transform your physique because they will. I have gotten to a point where I do my pullovers with 95 pounds. I'm almost at 100 pounds. And I still always do them with a very controlled negative, with very slow tempo. And as you can see, the range of motion is also quite deep. The dumbbells almost touches the floor behind me. I do these not on the bench but across the bench, and that is also something I will keep repeating, must be done. Some people make it work on the bench, but to me it defeats the purpose, because if you look at my hips to shoulders, you can see that the hips are much deeper than the shoulders. This allows to create a crescent shape. My body is shaped like a banana, like a curve, and that creates a better stretch on the ribcage, the serratus muscles, and the lats. Naturally, I feel some triceps and chest on this, but it is extremely small. The majority of the work is still in these areas we are trying to develop. Just take one look at this ribcage area and tell me that pullovers don't fucking work. If you want a similar look, even at a very high body fat, and you want to see all of this definition in your obliques, in your serratus, in your abs, then pullovers are for you. They're also a very underrated core movement, which is why I do them every single week. Look at the way I unrack, or quote-unquote unrack. This is something that is very easy to do on the bench. I know that some people get a little bit tripped up with how am I supposed to get rid of the dumbbell. That is how. Rewatch this footage. This is the way you're supposed to do your pullovers. Then we are moving on to the second part of the set. So on these logs, I only show you the first set, but the exercises you just saw me do, I did 3 sets of each. Then I move on to the next giant set, and this one is going to start with a movement for the forearm with my new bar that I'm extremely excited about because it fits exactly in the dimensions of my preacher curl. It's like these two are made to be together. And these are what you could be called pronated preacher curls that are going to still train the bicep, as you can see, but put the emphasis on the brachioradialis, and that is going to really help in developing those thick, meaty forearms. I favor a very slow tempo, as you can see, and I also make sure that my shoulders don't protrude forwards too much so that I don't cheat. I keep myself very strict on these. I'm a huge fan of rest pause training methods when it comes to movements like these. It's perfectly okay to take 3 to 5 to 10 to sometimes 15 seconds at the top of the movement to recuperate, because that extra rep you get is going to be super high intensity. Here in the following rep, you're going to see the perfect example of a poor grind, because that rep I was supposed to get. I knew I could get that rep if I kept going, but I gave up. Why? Because in that moment I was a pussy. It was my first time doing that movement, and this is the proof that grinding and effort is a skill, and it's a skill that is not necessarily transferable to every single movement. You have to learn how to grind on every single movement, and I did not know how to grind this. I was afraid of potentially getting hurt, so I bailed. That is perfectly fine, but now, as I am right now, I would get it. Again, abs, abs, abs. Abs make your physique look immediately better, so please train your fucking abs. Ab isolation is non-negotiable. Look at how mind-blown I am at the fact that some people still don't train their fucking abs and they call themselves bodybuilders. Alright, so what is next on the plan? Well, the first thing is my wife telling me, hey, you should get into under that light because it's good lighting. She's always good advice, of course. And actually I had an idea for a future log. How would you guys like my wife doing the commentary? I think it could be pretty funny since she's not a bodybuilder. I think that it could be a great love. Let me know in the comments. Alright. So the movement that is going to follow the forearms is going to be for the rear delt and for the upper back in general, that I do with a loop that you just saw I put around my wrist. I do not grab onto the loop, it would defeat the purpose. The goal of using the loop in that fashion is to use it like a strap. That way I don't have to focus on gripping it, I can just focus on driving my elbow up and back. And that to me is the best way to train your rear delts if you want to use a rowing variation as the way to stimulate them. You see that I focus on the stretch. You don't see the weight because of the angle of the camera, but it never touches the floor. So the rear delt is always under tension. I make sure I don't cheat too much. I don't use body English. Body English is perfectly fine to train your back when you do heavy rows like Yates rows, but not for this variation. Here you can see better how I loop it around my wrist and where the elbow goes. So a lot of people will tell you that you have to open up the elbow and square out the shoulder to target the rear delt, and that is perfectly true. But if it leads to shoulder discomfort, it's not worth it. So for me, I keep it open. You can see it's not in line with my shoulder because I don't want to recruit too much lats, but it's not at a 90-degree angle either because that tends to smoke my shoulders and I don't like it. So that was for the upper body. We started with the upper body and you saw my full training. There you see me stripping. Sorry for the ones who thought that I wasn't going to have any underwear underneath. This is not that type of channel, not yet. So this is the warm-up that I do before I squat. I've had many knee injuries in the past, some that were pretty serious, so I treat my knees like babies. This does not mean that I don't go heavy, as you will see, but I always make sure to warm them up, and I warm them up like this, by putting my feet on an angle. This is how I do all of my squats now, because it allows me to stay more upright, so it saves my lower back, and it puts more emphasis on my quads. I start with just bodyweight squats, and these tend to feel pretty shitty most often because my knees are simply not warm, but the more I do them, the better they feel, and that is the entire point. After this, I am going to start using resistance to create more tension and put more stress on the knees before we move to the actual weights that I want to touch to be able to stimulate hypertrophy. When it comes to the way, I don't know if these underwears are going to like be allowed on YouTube. We'll see. If the channel gets banned, it gets banned. At least this time it would be legitimate. So yeah, I was saying I'm going to use goblet squats as the way to warm up my knees slowly. To be honest with you guys, if there was a way to make goblet squats easier to load into the 200-300 pound range, I would use them as my main quad builder, because you can really push the knees forward. You can go as deep as you want. You can stay super vertical because the weight is in front of you. But the issue is that for me, I've done goblet squats with 140 pounds for sets of 20, and it's like not even a workout. It's not challenging. So I don't know how exactly you're supposed to make them work. Maybe with a front squat position. All of that is very impractical. All of that is very unstable. So my solution instead is that when I want to do my squats by putting my feet at an incline like this, I always use an SSB, a safety bar squat, because that's just what it was created for, in my opinion. The issue with the SSB is that if you do it with flat feet, you will quickly find out that you're going to have a tendency to bend forward, and that is going to recruit a lot more posterior chain, and that's not what I want as a bodybuilder. I want more quads. So when I load it with heavy-ass weight like this, and I'm going to do my set, which of course, you're not privy to all of the warm-up sets I did with this. I did 135, 200, 250, up until 300 plus. But when I finally get to that weight and I do my squats, you'll notice that I make sure to not pull the handles of the SSB down. Why? Because this would make my upper back round. It would make me hip hinge more. Instead, I do the exact opposite. I focus on pushing the handles up to keep my torso as vertical as possible. Then there is the matter of the tempo. Never, ever, ever dive bomb your squats when it comes to bodybuilding training. It is the best way to get injured and the best way to completely kill the stimulus that your quads receive. Instead, you want to be as slow and controlled as possible, fill the quads and the glutes, stretch, and then revert the movement by pushing up. You might see and notice that I'm not using any safeties here. This is stupid, this is dumb, it's dangerous. If I fail, I'm in trouble. But I do 2 reps in reserve on this exercise, so I know I'm relatively safe. So that is my big quad movement for my leg day. It's what I start with. And then I move on to an exercise for the posterior chain. For me, it's always the way I've been training. I start with hip hinge or knee flexions, and then I flip it around. And I do 3 sets of each, and that is that. That is a leg day for me, because when you go really hard, that is all you really need. And that hip hinge movement for the day is the Zercher Good Morning, a movement that I really enjoy because it's super fun. But also a movement that I gave up on. And the reason why I gave up on that movement is because, unfortunately, soon enough you realize that the Zercher position, the Zercher rack position, becomes your limiting factor, and as a bodybuilder, that's not the point. So I just reverted back to doing my good mornings with the SSB on my back, and that way the posterior chain can be the limiting factor. As you can see, that t-shirt on me looks like a fucking dress. This is the life of a bodybuilder. Anything that fits me is going to be for people who are like 8 feet tall. So here is the heavy set of the Zercher Good Morning. As you can see, even just the unrack is super hard, but then whenever I go into the actual motion, the motion of the Good Morning is easy as fuck, because there is an imbalance. The action of holding the bar is more difficult than the action of bending forward with the bar. So I milked these as much as I could. They were fun, and now I have to kiss them goodbye. I know that a lot of people have this like functional approach to fitness where they say, well, you should always train your weak link. That's not true. Yes, my Zercher hold is a weak link here because it's being beaten by my posterior chain, but why would I train a quality that I don't need in my endeavor? If you're a strong man, if you need that ability to really keep the elbow closed and to resist the opening of the elbow, then focusing on the Zercher hold makes a lot of sense. But for someone who cares about hypertrophy of the posterior chain, it makes very little sense. This is why intention is very important when discussing fitness. And then to finish up that lower body day, I'm training neck, because every time I train lower body, I train neck. And I think I did show this movement to you last time, so I don't need to explain what it does. It's for the back of the neck. You can see that the negative is much more controlled and the positive is very explosive. And that is going to conclude this log. Now we're going to move on to the big announcement I have. I'm going to talk about my training philosophy, etc., etc. See you there. Hello YouTube. Again, so this part of the video is going to be more of a laid-back commentary on the training and also the announcement that I promised at the start of the video. It's going to be something that I think I'm going to start doing in every single hypertrophy log, because as you can tell, when I commentate on the training, it's so quick that I feel like I'm on cocaine. And I know that sometimes I miss like some details that I want to discuss in more depth. So what you've just seen is the new way I've approached training for the past year, where now I don't really have a program anymore. I have a template, in the sense that I know which muscles I want to train on which day. Each day is either an upper day or a lower day, and then based on that, I'm going to fill the holes with all of the exercises that I have. Right now on your screen should appear all of the exercises that I have, all of the puzzle pieces that I use to create every single training day. And it's very seamless, because at this point I've memorized them all, I know the weights I need to use, I know every single rep range. So this makes it much more flexible, but it also makes it much more fun, because that way it's highly adaptable. I'm not forced to do a movement, and I've gotten to a point in my lifting journey where I actively refuse to do any movement that I don't like to do. I think that this is something that everyone should be doing, because in truth there are so many options that there is no reason for you to do a movement that you don't actively enjoy and you don't look forward to. Likewise, with food, it's the same thing. It's a similar analogy. Why would you feed yourself and your body with something that you don't like? This is going to create resentment and result in catastrophe down the line. You should, of course, not be afraid to experience, but if a movement doesn't work, fucking drop it. It's what I did with the Zercher Good Mornings. I took them from 135 to like 245, and when I realized that it was really not going to work for me, I just dropped them. That is my new training philosophy. I don't recommend novices and early intermediates train like this, because it can be a bit confusing and lead to you just showing up to the gym and just winging it, because you don't quite know how your body works yet and what you need on a given day. And that can create a situation where you're going to do the extreme pendant of what I just preached, where you will become the kid that only eats fries and nuggets and pizza because you enjoy it. Well, yes, of course, that's exactly what I just told you to do, but now you took it too far and you're going to create an unbalanced physique for yourself. You'll be the guy who's good at deadlifts and now only deadlifts, even though it's going to create a shit physique. So I think it's something that you can start to ease yourself into when you are intermediate, early advanced. It starts to make a lot more sense. And I'm seeing a lot of advanced natural bodybuilders who now train like this, who know which lifts they're supposed to do, but they don't have a rigid program that says do this, and do this. This is a freedom and a privilege that you're going to earn after years and years of training. And so this is my current form. So now I only train 5 days a week. I went from 7 days a week at the start of the channel to then 6 days to now 5 days, where I do upper 3 times a week. 2 of the uppers are chest and back, and 1 of the upper is an arm day. And then I have 2 lower days. The reason why I no longer do lower body 3 times a week is because I literally cannot do it anymore. My recovery cannot handle it. There used to be a time where I could, but now if I train my legs hard, 48 hours is simply not enough. I need 72 hours, sometimes even more. If I do 3 sets of heavy Romanian deadlift, 48 hours after is when the DOMs are at their peak, because they tend to be delayed. Likewise, if I push myself on split squats, I can barely walk the next day. So I'm not going to do heavy squats again after 2 days. That's not possible. It's also because it's linked with the fact that I have less and less time, more and more responsibility. But I have found that even though I'm training less frequently, it allows me to train more intensely, and so the gains are still the exact same. And my progression rate is the exact same, because my recovery is now maximized and optimized. We talk a lot about optimal training. We don't talk enough about optimal recovery. And recovery is much easier than most people think. It's just less frequency, higher quality volume, so less junk volume, and then better quality nutrition and a lot of rest. Passive rest, right? You don't need to go to the gym and stretch for hours. Sit your ass on the couch and read a book. That is recovery. Your muscles are working very hard when you do that. So make sure that the balance of activity and of passivity is respected in all aspects of life. So that's for the way I approach bodybuilding now. I'm going to make videos now that September is coming around based on this new approach. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about the situation, right, of the channel, where you've noticed that there's less and less videos. There's almost no videos now. which is not something that I enjoy. But as I said in the previous log that if you missed, you can find in the description, I have to prioritize my job because, well, I have a responsibility to my family, and that means less time to make YouTube content. Hopefully this should get better coming September. I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm still fighting an uphill battle, but I have come to the realization that if I wait for life to stop throwing me curveballs to swing my bat, I will never hit a home run again. Which is my poetic way of saying that I've accepted now that difficulties are part of my existence and that I cannot wait for the storm to stop. I have to get out in the storm, in the rain, and get shit done. And it's exactly why I want, starting September, to start to stream, because I think it's going to really help in that endeavor. It's going to... Noises in my house, I'm supposed to be alone. There's a burglar, there's a cat, there's a squirrel in the attic. I'm going to die live. It's fine. As I was saying before being rudely interrupted by a ghost, I think that this is going to, one, create more activity on the channel for you guys, because that's sort of the point. Two, recreate a link and a relationship between the two of us. And, you know, I'm me and you're you, the high multitude with many eyes that I cannot know. But I really miss this interaction, and I think that live streaming is the only way to get it back, because Q&As when done en différé, as we say in French, on a video, it just doesn't feel the same. I want to have the ability to read the chat, to answer to you individually, look at your names, know a little bit more about you. That's what I love. That's why I started making videos. So this is what I want to start doing, and it's starting soon, because if you're watching this video, I think on a Tuesday, it should be September 3rd, next weekend, so Saturday 4, 5, 6, 7, Saturday the 7th is the first stream. And the first stream should be about hypertrophy. So we'll just talk about training, but in reality, we'll talk about everything. Because I'm going to have to calibrate. I'm horrible with technology, which is weird because I work with it. But we're going to like figure this shit out together. So if you're interested to be there for the first stream of the Natural Hypertrophy channel, this is going to be this Saturday. And then going forward, I want to stream pretty much every single week. So every single week on Saturday, I'll post a lot of the detail on the community post the day before the stream. It should be a different topic. One week will be hypertrophy, then self-improvement, then dating. We'll talk about women. We will take this fucking topic away from all of the mongoloid creatures and goblins of the red pill that have now made people convinced that if you talk about dating and romance, then you must be an idiot. No. We're going to get back to the roots. We're going to discuss the relationship between men and women, how special and rare we are, how you should go about it if you're a man and you want to find love, if you have issues in your relationships. It won't even be limited to romance, even if you have problems with your parents, with a friend, with something in your life. All of that I want to talk with you about because I'm interested. And then, and this is still up in the air, but we'll see how the streams go. We might do a philosophy stream. Well, literally I'll just be in front of the camera with a book. We'll listen to classical music and I will read the book out loud as I discover the book, and I'll tell you just my thoughts. Essentially, you will get to see me work on my philosophy videos and how I construct them, but live. So if it's something that tickles your fancy, I will see if I can make it happen, because I think it will be also a great way for me to actually sit down and work on philosophy every single week. And yeah, that's that. So outside of it, this is what I want more of. Is this chill, relaxed ability to just talk freely without a fucking script, because scripting videos is important and vital, especially for philosophy, but I also miss this directness. And as far as what happened to me when it comes to my health, because I told you that I was doing poorly, I'm doing better, my blood pressure is down, my stress levels are down. I managed to take a week to go back to my family who lives in the mountains of Europe, disconnected from the internet, and just like, I was able to breathe, you know. I was able to breathe, and I felt like my lungs were functioning and not just pumping stress directly into my system. I spent time with my nephews. I just existed, and I read a ton of Sun and Still, and it's quite the experience to read Sun and Still in the middle of the mountains with like the sun beating down on you. And I went back to my roots and I trained in like an old place for my grandpa. Smokes pigs, and he makes jamon, and he makes sausages, and it's not optimal, but fuck, I think if I could do that every single day, I would. I had like a pair of rusty dumbbells, and I had rings that I would put in the trees, and I would do chin-ups and shit, and I actually managed to maintain all of my strength and didn't lose weight. Because I ate like a pig. I ate like everything that I could. And a little hack for those of you who travel, you know that taking the plane is going to dehydrate you, you're going to lose weight and strength and performance. The easier way to get away with that is one, eat all of the greasy, delicious food at the airport, and two, get the little like hydration packages and drink as many as you can throughout the plane ride, and I guarantee you that you will arrive just as heavy and full of water as you were when you left. So that's a little hack. And yeah, all of that just to say that I'm doing better. And I just want to keep fucking moving forward because I'm tired of having to wait, and I'm tired of just like inactivity. It's not doing me any good, and fuck it. At this point, yeah, I'll sleep a little bit less. Maybe my stress levels will increase and my blood pressure will increase. I mean, it's just, if I have the choice between that or being a zombie on the couch, I will pick that every single time. So yeah, that is that. So as I said, look forward to this stream for this weekend. Look forward to new videos. I have so many ideas. I have a list of like 500 ideas. That's not the problem. The issue is the time, but I'm not going to bore you with all of these considerations. That is on me to consider because that's my fucking responsibility as the person who started this channel. So I'm going to leave you with that. As always, I want to thank the people who are still supporting the page on Ko-fi. If you want to support the channel, even though technically right now I'm not active, I would be very grateful. It's the first link in the description. But outside of that, the fact that you're here and you're still watching and you're interested is already a lot. It means a lot to me. So I salute you. Thank you for being there. I'm going to wish you a very good rest of your day. And always remember, train hard because training truly is the backbone of a sane and healthy existence.